post as the exchange student that you have like a 3-week affair with.
Fake. We can see that you don't have pants on.
Somebody hit somebody with a pie. Do something.
Giovanni yelling we're out of time as we go off the air.
Giovanni yelling a lot of things tonight.
And welcome to the Mark It Down podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mark It Down podcast. It is Thursday night, so you know what that means. This is the Gym Pack Zone, where I, James Gisanti, cover all things TNA. Now, really going to be covering all things TNA because we have a lot to talk about. Yes, tonight's Thursday. Yes, that means we cover Impact here at the Mark It Down podcast, but unfortunately, the majority of the big TNA news that happened this week happened earlier in the week. Unfortunately, TNA has decided to clean house a little bit backstage as Gail Kim, legendary knockout, legendary performer in the world of professional wrestling, was released from the company. Now, obviously, Gail hasn't been an on-screen figure in some time. Obviously, even more than that, Gail hasn't been a regular performer for TNA in a very long time. But the reality is she has served such a big role backstage, both with the knockouts and TNA in general, that this is a huge blow. I don't know a single person who has heard this announcement that is thrilled. I haven't seen a single person who's dealt with this announcement and felt confident about TNA moving forward. And look, was Gail the only person released? No, there were unfortunately several executives that were released. No one really on the level for Gail that the audience would know. But this is still, like, you never want to see anybody lose their job. You never want to see anybody, no matter the position, if they're doing the work, unfortunately, be taken away from that. But with Gail, this feels like a really big red flag. With Gail, this feels like a signal that maybe things aren't so hunky-dory in TNA town. Supposedly, this was a move made directly by TNA president Carlos Silva. Again, cannot confirm that. Don't want to just say something for the sake of saying it. But this is big. Like, I know I keep saying it. I don't know how to properly convey it. Gail has been in this role with the company for years. Gail was the person smoothing things over when Scott D'Amore, former TNA president, was let go from the company. She's the one who smoothed things over backstage for the locker room. So the fact that Gail is going, and we're in the midst of this WWE TKO Endeavor deal with TNA, it's unfortunately raising a lot of eyebrows. I don't know what this means for the future of TNA. I don't know what this means for the future of Gail Kim. I wish her obviously nothing but the best. Gail is, by all accounts, a lovely human being. Gail very clearly is good at her job, or was good at her job. And Gail was very beloved by the knockouts and just TNA officials or TNA personnel in general. So, again, going back to this WWE TKO deal with TNA, there's a lot of fear. And look, nothing's been said. Nothing's been officially said. Nothing's been confirmed. Nothing's even been sort of speculated by anybody that really is in the know. But it's hard not to think about the ramifications of what this means with that deal. Is TNA clearing house for a potential sale? Is TNA setting the stage for an acquisition that WWE, or more appropriately TKO, might absorb them? What would that mean? Would this be WWE CW all over again, where it would just be a WWE controlled brand? Would it just be, or WWE's representation of what they thought that brand was? would TNA still have some level of autonomy? I don't know. I really don't know. I have been saying since the beginning that I have not been thrilled at the notion of this partnership. I've been very fearful of what it could mean for TNA. And look, who knows? I might just be crying into the void. Oh, my cat definitely doesn't like it. You got this, mama. You might hear her for a second, so I apologize. It's allergy season. I don't really know what this means. I could just be crying wolf. I could just be, chasing clouds, thinking I'm anticipating a storm. I don't know. But when you have so many people that were so influential to a company just systematically be removed little by little, it's scary. Now in charge of booking for TNA, not that Gail was in charge of booking for TNA, but now in charge of booking for TNA is former Ring of Honor booker Delirious. Now, Delirious was the booker was a professional wrestler, and then the head booker for Ring of Honor, as Ring of Honor sort of saw some of its darkest days, unfortunately. Delirious was the guy who was in charge of booking as Ring of Honor was getting ready to be closed down forever before Tony Khan came in and bought it. Not a great sign. Not a great sign, but again, maybe further proof that they just need someone to steer the ship until WWE comes in to make the big buy. BX saying, James Stradamus, right about the TNA WWE partnership and about the TNA AEW partnership being better for TNA. First of all, thank you. I needed that. My ego needed that. Second of all, I just wish I wasn't right. I didn't want this. I would rather have been wrong. It sucks to see the potential end of TNA as we know it, especially when they had been doing so much to build goodwill and to regain momentum. No, I agree. BX saying this feels more like Anthem cutting costs to possibly sell than a WWE thing. I think it's a little bit of column A, column B. I don't necessarily think WWE had anything to do with, say, Gail Kim's release. I don't think WWE had anything to do with any of these execs being released. But I think Anthem probably recognizes that there's potential for a sale here. We have to remember, Anthem only ever purchased TNA in the first place years ago to fill up TV time for them. They wanted to put them on local stations just to fill up space. And it worked for them. It was wildly successful for Anthem, but it wasn't necessarily all that successful for TNA, which is a bummer. Now, I don't know. Again, all speculation, but if I'm WWE, I want TNA's library. The same way if I'm AEW, I wanted Ring of Honor's library. If I'm WWE, I want TNA's library. There are so many of their stars that have had a stint in TNA. AJ Styles, obviously. CM Punk was there for a good while in the beginning. A lot of guys came in through TNA at one point or another. Motor City Machine Guns, who are there now. So I don't necessarily know what to expect moving forward. I'm more worried than anything. But until anything is official, we just got to keep on going. Day by day, Thursday by Thursday. So time will tell, but really sad to see the release of Gail Kim. I'm really hoping she lands somewhere. I mean, any place would be happy to have her, or should be happy to have her. They'd be lucky to have a talent and a mind and a player like Gail Kim in their company. I would love to see her have some matches in AEW. I would love to see her maybe be given some women's responsibilities in AEW and Ring of Honor. Let her not necessarily fully take over the women's division, but maybe let her have a guiding hand. Because as we know, the Knockouts division was the gem of women's pro wrestling period, across the board. And Gail was a big, big part of that. Yeah, BX also saying Kurt Angle is probably the most important. Some of his best years were there in TNA. I completely agree. BX also saying AEW should definitely pick up Gail. Tony Khan could use someone to help book the women's division despite their back-to-back Dynamite main events. I agree. Look, we're riding a high right now. So why not just continue to bolster that by bringing in people who know how to run that type of division and know how to bring out the best in women? And a lot of the women in AEW have had time in TNA. Whether you're Deonna Purrazzo or Taya Valkyrie or Madison Rayne, a lot of women that came and went through TNA. So it would be nice. And I think AEW and Tony would really benefit from it. But that's all I really have to say on the matter for now. This story is obviously going to develop. This story is obviously going to have more and more coming out. But I wouldn't be shocked to see Gail land somewhere, whether that's Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, Scott D'Amore's new Canadian promotion up north. We'll see. But wishing the best to Gail and everyone who was released in this time, and really, really hoping TNA doesn't get purchased by WWE. But going to the start of the show, we had Elegance, Ash by Elegance and Heather by Elegance take on NXT's Gigi Dolan and Tatum Paxley. The show started with the Iceman himself making his introduction for the women. Interesting way to start the show. I'm a big fan of Elegance. I can't say everybody is, so I don't really know why we started this way, especially because there were more exciting matches that happened later in the show that didn't necessarily main event either. So, interesting choice. This was a fine match. Again, nothing that I would have necessarily started a show with, but back and forth until the very end when Iceman knocked over Gigi Dolan, I think taking her out, and then allowing Ash to hit her rarefied air senton from the top rope onto Tatum Paxley, getting the 1, 2, 3, and the Elegances not retained because this wasn't a title match, but the Elegances win this matchup. I've made it clear I'm a fan of Ash and Heather, but I'm noticing that they don't really feel like an actual tag team. They just feel like two people teaming up. And if you know tag team wrestling, you know what I mean. There are people who team up and they're just two singles people that are making tags. And then there are units like FTR. Or if we want to stick with the women's division, you could do like the Iconics. You know? I'd rather be an Iconics than a Trish and Lita, who, yeah, we all love Team Bestie. It's not like they were an actual team at any point. So I would like to see a little more cohesion out of Ash and Heather. But this is still a relatively new tag team, so that can grow. That said, I'm just really happy they have the Knockouts tag titles and Spitfire don't right now. Again, I know I sound like a hater when it comes to Spitfire. I really do like them. It's just that they were holding those tag titles and the tag division hostage for a while. But after this, as they're getting ready to celebrate, Ash is finally going to have her $5,000 cake, celebratory cake from last week. But you are correct, sir. They are the inspiration in TNA. But I can't say inspiration. It just doesn't work, you know, the way Iconic does. But as Ash is about to celebrate and enjoy her $5,000 sheet cake, Tatum and Gigi take out Heather. They get rid of the Iceman, and then they shove Ash's face into the cake. Rough stuff. They then begin to lick the cake off of her, and for all of us, I think I could safely say, bunk. After a quick commercial break, we come back, and Ash is still lamenting backstage what had happened to her. I'm being very generous. She wasn't lamenting. She was loudly complaining, loudly whining. She says that she's going to take a big vacation, but she's leaving Heather and the Iceman behind, and it is their duty to protect the Elegance name, the Elegance brand. So maybe we're going to see some solo action from Heather for a couple of weeks. Very interesting, as we finally have them as Knockouts Tag Team Champions. So let's see where that goes. Death taxes and the cake going in someone's face. You're not wrong, pal. And the taxes are definitely getting a hit because this was apparently, again, a $5,000 cake. But moving on after this match and after this segment, we then go elsewhere backstage as the hardest working woman in TNA, Mean Gia Miller, is interviewing Leon Slater. Leon is asked about his big main event match later with Nick Nemeth. And Slater says that he's feeling a lot of things and he's not quite sure what to think. But he says tonight won't just be a match, it will be a fight. Slater says that the Nemeths shocked the world at Sacrifice when he betrayed him and the Hardys, but he's going to show the Nemeths, and Nick in particular, what the Hardys taught him, and he will answer to the new Lord of Extreme, and he will get his back tonight. I am fully drinking the Kool-Aid on this kid, Leon Slater. 100% drinking the Kool-Aid on this kid. He just has it. There's something about him that maybe it's because I am such a big Hardy fan and maybe I see that inspiration shining through on him. I don't know, but I am all in on this kid. I want him to be the person to take the X Division title off of Moose. I want him to just have a spotlight shined on him. His promos are surprisingly strong. Like, I'm not blown away, but at the same time, I am very, very impressed. And his in-ring work speaks for itself. Very exciting young talent, and I think TNA has something special on their hands with this kid. Let's not mess it up. We then go to our next match, another tag team match, this time a six-man tag, as Chavo Guerrero and the Aztec Warriors. That would be Laredo, who I guess has dropped the kid, Laredo and Octagon? Yeah. Octagon. I'm getting used to him. He's new. He just got signed. Chavo and the Aztec Warriors take on First Class and Frankie Kazarian. Gotta give it to El Paso. They showed up for Chavo Guerrero. They were anticipating him. They were cheering him on when he wasn't in the match. They wanted him in the match. And Chavo returned it in kind, hitting multiple Three Amigos, hitting one set on AJ Francis, and then finishing the match with a beautiful pitch perfect frog splash in honor of his Uncle Eddie. He hit it on Casey Navarro, I should say, and pinned Casey. I'm all in on the Aztec Warrior. I'm here for the Aztec Warriors. I think it's a fun tag team, and I think TNA is in desperate need of bolstering for their tag team division. Rev saying Chavo in El Paso is borderline Brett in Canada. I mean, with Eddie gone, it's all Chavo, and they gave it to him. I'm glad he got this reception. I've gotten to meet Chavo a couple times over the years, and he's a really respectful dude. And he's a guy that, if you've been watching for a long time, we know how good he is. He just, your uncle was Eddie Guerrero, and his best friend was Rey Mysterio. It's hard to shine in those situations, but real pleasure to see Chavo getting a nice rub in El Paso. Especially when you consider other guys that TNA have brought in, like Primo and Epico, who didn't get as warm a reception in Orlando. Which, granted, Orlando is not Puerto Rico, but they were looking for the WWE Orlando rub there, and they didn't get it. So, really happy that they showed up for Chavo. Really happy that the babyfaces won. And again, happy that the Aztec Warriors are now a thing in TNA. The tag team division is getting a little bit better. We've got the Hardys, we've got the Nemeths, we've got First Class, we've got the Aztec Warriors, we've got Sinner and Saint. I feel like I'm definitely. We have the System, we have the Rascals. Things are looking good for the tag team division. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not looking for anybody to upset the Hardys and take those titles off of them, but I know it is coming. And while I'm dreading the fact that it's going to be Nick and Ryan Nemeth, more than likely, it's coming, and at least the Nemeths are going to have a slew of tag team opponents to prepare for. So should be a good time. Let's just see how the timeline progresses. But after this 6-man tag, we then move to a vignette backstage with Rosemary. Now, Rosemary is continuing her feud with Zaya Brookside. Okay, I'm interested. I think we all agree that Zaya needs a couple more layers added to her. Zaya needs just something. I'm not really into the fall to the dark side angle, just because I don't really buy it. I don't really believe it all that much, but I'm open to it. It's something. It gives Rosemary something to do, which is great. It gives Zaya something to do, which is great. And it keeps them both busy while not being in the title picture. So by all means, on paper, this is a good thing. This is a good progression of events. After this vignette, we go to a backstage sit-down moderated by Santino Marella, the director of Authority. And it's with Sami Callihan, Steph DeLander, and Mance Warner. Steph DeLander is still holding on to the Digital Media Championship despite not being recognized by TNA as the champion. This is kind of like a gnarly, nasty sit-down between all three. Santino does his best to keep everybody in line, but, when handcuffs are involved, which they were, as Sammy and Mance are both handcuffed, Santino, you're doing your best, buddy. Santino believed that if they weren't handcuffed, somebody would be leaving in a death bag, as he called it. Santino then says he wants to know what needs to be done to bring this to an end. Callahan says that Mance doesn't belong in TNA. He belongs in jail with the rest of his family. Mance says that he's kicked down the door of TNA and has done everything he said he was going to do. Mance then brings up beating up Callahan, and Callahan reminds him that he cheated. Santino says that he's going to be making an announcement regarding the Digital Media Championship, but both men need to promise that they won't continue to damage TNA property. Sammy refuses and calls Steph a skank. This led to Steph throwing a drink in his face and everybody being separated. Now, I actually kind of want to address this because I get what he's going for. I get it's a cheap little dig at Steph's expense. But kind of 2 nights in a row in professional wrestling where we saw some light misogyny. Last night, I heavily praised, and I still do think it was a good verbal smackdown from MVP, but kind of bordered on misogyny. Bitches, calling him a woman, calling Bandit Keith a woman, a little old. And now to call her a skank, there had to be something better. There just had to be. So I'm not mad. I'm not mad. I'm not going to cause a stink about it. I'm not looking to get anybody in trouble. But I think we could all be a little bit better. That's all. Let's just all try to be a little bit better. Anyway, speaking of respecting women, we are going to go to our only title match of the night as Masha Slamovich, the Knockouts champion, defends against NXT's JC Jane. Surprisingly hard-hitting matchup. And I say that knowing that Masha Slamovich is in this match, but I wasn't expecting it to be such a slugfest between both women. I'm only marginally aware of JC Jane. I know who she is. I have seen her compete before in NXT, but she usually doesn't get the spotlight as much as I'm seeing here, at least not in a way that I think she has been in a while for NXT. So it was fun to see her get some offense in and to have a tough performance against Masha, our champion. Now, granted, that is somewhat of a dismay because I don't want somebody who is typically a jobber in their own promotion to look better in our promotion here. But it was an entertaining matchup. Both women just, like I said, duking it out with one another. Before the finish coming with Masha hitting the snowplow on JC and getting the 1-2-3. It doesn't end there though, because after the 1, 2, 3, after the bell, as she is celebrating, she is blindsided from behind by Tessa Blanchard. As the assault continues, she is eventually run off by Xia Brookside and Lei Ying Lee. I'm conflicted. We know that Tessa's a heel, and we know that no matter what, she's going to get booed, as she should. But Tessa, if you're going to utilize her, she is a former world champion. Both the world championship, the men's world championship, and the women's world championship. She has held both in that company. She should not just be relegated to somebody who beats down opponents from behind. I want to believe she does not need to do these things because she is that good. But so far, we've only seen her being an ambush artist and a little bit of a cheat. So I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. I think it would be nice to just have her be a dominant, in a world where we have to deal with her, let's utilize her correctly. And I think utilizing her correctly is making her an imposing force, not just a chicken shit heel. I don't know. In the comments, we have BX saying, that's the thing with this TNA WWE relationship, though. WWE is sending bench players so they get more time, and then they throw the occasional bone like Obi or Fraxium. Hi, you know it. Yes, we are live. We appreciate you for joining us. Thank you for being here on this Thursday night. And look, I will say, TNA, NXT has been doing a little bit better. Like you mentioned, Obafemi, Fraxium, we got Wendy Chu for a little bit, and I appreciate that. I do. I really do. But I don't know. The JC Jane thing, again, she's not some unknown entity. She was part of that Toxic Attraction with Gigi Dolan, who again was on the show earlier tonight. And she's not part of that group now because of the Mandy Rose of it all, but she is an entity. I just found it in I guess I'm saying I think she was booked better here than she was in her own company, which is a very slippery slope for both sides. For both sides. It's not just the TNA problem, it's not just an NXT issue. So I don't know, just something to keep an eye on, I suppose. After this matchup, we went to our next singles match as we had Ace Austin taking on Eric Young. Now, last week, I was very excited for this matchup because I said it's going to be really awesome to see Ace get a big win over a former world champion. That did not happen. You know it's saying she was a guest on this show? Wow. JC Jane on this show? That'd be great. Unfortunately, no. But yes, she did show up in TNA tonight. But yeah, going back to Young and Austin, I was saying I thought it would be great for Austin, who has been not floundering, but a little directionless since the incident with Chris Bay and his unfortunate injury. It feels like TNA doesn't quite know what to do with Ace. He had made his intentions clear. He wanted to go for the World Championship, but then he got sidetracked by Moose and the X Division Championship. And then he got sidetracked with this stuff with the Rascals and Wes Lee and NXT. I'm not saying this kid needs to win the world title tomorrow because we're not there yet. We got some building that we got to do. But that said, we're further away than I think we should be. A loss to Eric Young, which, sorry guys, spoiler, he did lose to Eric Young. And granted, it was a protected loss. He was distracted by the Northern Armory. He was distracted by Sinner and Saint, Judas Icarus and Travis Williams. And then he got thrown into the ring post and then got hit with a pedigree. That's a pretty safe, protected finish. I just don't think he should have lost, period. Ace Austin is a guy who just re-signed with TNA, I believe, last year. He's got all the potential in the world to be a star, an actual star, which is something that I think TNA is struggling with right now. Their lack of star power is hurting them. Yes, they have Joe Hendry. Yes, they have Mike Santana. Yes, they have the Hardys. And yes, they have Nick Nemeth. Sure. But as we know, the women's division is hurting just a little bit. I'm hesitating to call Tessa Blanchard a star right now, but she is. But the Knockouts division is hurting. The Hardys are tag guys, and quite frankly, they're legends. They don't really count. Nick Nemeth is a very take him or leave him talent. All the respect in the world to him, but he is not going to appeal to everyone at this stage. That leaves Hendry and Santana, and Hendry, we know, has one foot out the door. It's a matter of when, not a matter of if, when he goes to WWE. So that leaves Mike Santana. I'm happy. I love Santana. I'm rooting for him to win this TNA World Championship, but we need more people to be excited about. That's why I am so happy about a guy like Leon Slater, and that's why I'm putting so many eggs in the Ace Austin basket. I just wish TNA started to do the same. So those are my 2 cents. It's he's just here to distract me, and BX agreeing that he's there for that too. I appreciate you guys. It's not a distraction, it's a party when you guys are here. It's saying I'm too old to know how to troll, so I just distract them. You're doing great. You're doing great, pal. Keep it up. But yeah, Ace Austin, I don't know. I think he re-signed for 3 years, and I think that was last year. So I think there's 2 years left on this deal. Just make it worth it. Make it worth it. Not to rub salt in any TNA wounds, but we're seeing how well these exciting guys can do elsewhere. I am thrilled about how Speedball Mike Bailey is being used in AEW already. We're all anticipating, we're all salivating at the thought of Josh Alexander jumping into AEW and making a splash soon. I don't want to think about that with Ace Austin yet. Not when I think this guy could carry the TNA flag. Just a sad time, man. Gail Kim, just sad. Anyway, I'm sure this isn't the end of the story. I know Young has to focus on Steve Maclin sooner rather than later, but whatever. Speaking of, I don't have a lower third for this yet, but there was a beautiful, beautiful hype package for the feud between Santana and Mustafa Ali. Santana riding the train, very cinematic. It was really good. Acknowledging the fact that Mustafa broke a very solid, a very long-running, undefeated single streak for Santana when he broke it at, I believe it was Sacrifice. This feud has a lot of fun ingredients, and I'm really, really looking forward to the pop-off on it. So, not much longer, I'd imagine. But anyway, going back into the ring, we have our world champion, Joe Hendry, showing up and kind of just addressing the crowd. He's looking for a new challenger for the world championship. And before he could get too far along in it, he's greeted, very much choosing my words here, he's greeted by his new friend and new sometimes tag partner, Elijah. Elijah says not to worry. He's not here to challenge for the world championship. He's here to sing a song with him. He said that he's heard the rumors. He's heard the scuttlebutt online that everyone is just expecting and waiting for the eventual betrayal that Elijah will turn on Joe Hendry. But he said that's not the case. He's not looking for that, and he admires and he likes Joe too much. He then decides he wants to sing a song with Joe. And while Joe's unprepared, Elijah says he knows the song. It's his favorite song. It's "You've Got a Friend in Me." Now, before they could really get going, they are interrupted by Frankie Kazarian. Having lost already tonight, I guess he needed some more time on camera, and he brings out a bass guitar. He then starts to antagonize Elijah. He starts to antagonize Joe Hendry, and he starts to antagonize El Paso. He tries to get Hendry and Elijah to go after one another, But both men are too smart for that, and they team up and dispense of Frankie Kazarian. They then get the crowd to sing, na, 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 hey, 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 goodbye. Fun little moment. But again, interesting. Hendry is finally our TNA World Champion, and he feels sort of second fiddle, whether it's to the Hardys or to Nemeth or to pretty much anything else right now. This was a fun little segment, but he is our world champion. He should be involved in more. Just foot out the door, man. But after this, we go to our main event as Nick Nemeth took on Leon Slater in what was an excellent match. Absolutely, this should have been the main event. I'm really glad that it was. Oh, speaking of which, I was saying that Masha and JC should have opened the show. That was the match that I was alluding to before, but it is what it is. But this match was incredible. This was I don't want to say star-making performance for Slater because I don't want to be hyperbolic, but excellent, excellent, excellent showing from the young kid. He was hanging toe-to-toe with somebody who I know the shine is worn off on Nemeth for a long time now, but he is still one of the absolute best who laces up the boots every time he shows up on a show. Great, great showing from these guys. Slater debuting, not necessarily debuting, but bringing forth a fun new move, a variation on the Twist of Fate, calling it the Twist of Slate. And it's kind of he sets up for the Twist of Fate, but then he just kind of drives them on their face. Very interesting, fun new move. He then went for the 450 Swanton, but Nemeth put his knees up. They go back and forth a little bit more until I believe Ryan got involved. I missed a little bit of the finish, so I apologize. There was some interference there. I'm not wrong. Ryan put up a little bit of a distraction, and then Nick hits a big super kick, followed by the danger zone, getting the 1-2-3. After the match, both Nemeth brothers look to continue to attack Slater, but the Hardys music plays. They make their return slowly. They're still selling the fact that they are very beat up after the pay-per-view, but Matt challenges the Nemeths to a match at Rebellion, saying that they are the best brother tag team in all of professional wrestling. So, guys, that was TNA. That was Impact this week. It's saying this episode must have cost some monies for song copyrights. Like what? What songs? Let me know. I might not have been paying attention. But that was Impact this week. TNA is inching their way closer and closer to Rebellion and to Sacrifice. No, not Sacrifice. Is it Sacrifice? No, what show is it? I don't know. They're inching their way to WrestleMania weekend of all shows. And it's going to be a good time to be a TNA fan for the short notice. I'm trying to be very positive. I'm trying not to just be drowned out by my worry for what this could mean for TNA. But I keep saying it. I'm just bummed about the Gail Kim firing. I think it's a bad move. I think it's a scary move. And I think it's indicative of what we should be worried about what's to come. We've seen One Knockout apparently said that she is not renewing her contract. A lot of the talent are pushing back on this release. They're not happy with it, and they're making it known. Steph DeLander, Rosemary, and one other performer, and I missed who it was on Twitter. But scary times, scary times. But what's not scary is us here at the Markdown Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us this Thursday night. You guys know the deal. If you're a regular like you know it, or BX, thank you. Much appreciated. We love you. We really love you. If you're a new face and you're just checking us out for the first time, thank you. Don't know what brought you here, but we hope you stay. So please hit that subscribe button. Give us a like. Let us know we're doing something right. And of course, check us out on all of our social media. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We are on TikTok. We are on Blue Sky. We are on X. I think that's everything. So I am James Gisanti. This is the Market Down Podcast, and on Thursday nights, this is the Gym Pack Zone. As always, watch wrestling. As always, watch TNA. And thank you, everybody, for joining me tonight. Have a good one.